Okay. All right. We are ready. And I got to find my little notes. So if you want to start off, Leah.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we are going to be talking about how Animal Reiki brings miracles into your life. And it could be miracles either through the animals or just miracles through your practice. And for those of us who have been practicing a while, like Jamie and I, we have all kinds of stories about what Animal Reiki has brought to our lives, both on the human side and the animal side, and just what wonderful teachers animals are to us when it comes to exhibiting what true love means, of letting go of anger, and of helping us to transform by teaching us about meditation and mindfulness. So we have lots of stories to share about this.
Uh,
So we should probably, go ahead, Jamie.
I was going to say, yes, we do. And I got my notes up. So I'm good now.
Okay, great. So we'll talk about the realization when we're with these animals of what true love means and how animals really show us what true love is. And that means, true love, true love isn't like human love. I love you, but it would be really nice if you did this for me. I love you, but even our parents do that to us, right? I
Right.
love you, but you drive me crazy. I love you, but.
Very,
Whereas animals,
very conditional with humans, right?
yes. And with animals, it's not conditional at all. With animals, it is pure love, meaning that they love us no matter what. They love us through our falls, falls, when we fall.
That too.
They
That too.
love us through our flaws. And they love us no matter what. And even during times when we have to make hard decisions to maybe let an animal go or put an animal in foster or put an animal, give our animal away, which is never something anyone wants to do. But animals adapt more easily than humans. And they don't hate us for it. They never come back, with like anger or resentment. I can tell my dog, oh, we're going to go for a walk. And then I don't take her. And she's not like, okay, well, I'm not going to talk to you for the rest of the day. I'm just going to sit up here like a human would, right? You said you were going to do this and you didn't. So animals are really wonderful in that respect. And Jamie and I have some really nice stories we'd love to share. And Jamie, why don't you start with your story of Tulip?
Yes, absolutely. So Tulip taught me so many lessons, but she really taught me about unconditional love and not holding on, no attachments to anger and worry and hanging on to the past, which we humans are so good at doing. We just keep reliving. If somebody did us wrong, we relive it in our mind. We just can't seem to let go of that. At least many of us can't. And so Tulip was a chow chow. And I happen to love chow chows. And when I first saw an email, she was in a shelter and she had just been groomed and she had the cute little bandana on. And it got sent to my email by one of the rescue friends of mine. But I wasn't in a situation where I could take her. And I thought, oh, I hope she finds a home. But she really tugged at my heartstrings just seeing that picture. Well, then fast forward 4 years, and I was in a bigger place. I had a yard. There was no HOA telling me how many animals I could have. And I saw that same picture come up on my email. And I'm like, how could this be? That's been 4 years. So I got a hold of the gal that had sent me the email. And she's like, well, Jamie, let me tell you a little bit about her. She said she's okay with other dogs, but she can take or leave people. And I'm like, well, that's a chow chow for you, And she said, just give her time. She'll warm up to you. And then she told me her story. And she had been kind of a backyard dog with her brother. And then for some reason, they were both surrendered to the shelter. They had been there 4 years. And her brother actually passed away at the shelter. They were both a kind of aggressive people, the caretakers were a little cautious around them. They'd kind of kick, at the door and then throw the food in. There was one guy who could walk Tulip. And so she was very fearful. She would show signs of aggression. Then her brother died and she went into a very deep depression. and the staff didn't think she was going to live. So then they started putting other dogs in because she loved other dogs. And that brought her out of her depression. But unfortunately, she did not get the kind of care she needed. I mean, she had the fur that a chow has, and she didn't get brushed, so it was all matted. I found out later when she came to my house at the vet check, she had arthritis in every vertebrae of her spine and in her hips. She had to have 7 teeth pulled because she had all this infection going on in her mouth. Her skin had a massive skin infection, and her hair never really grew back right. It was always kind of funky. She was a little scary looking. So she was in a lot of pain on top of that, and so, yeah, I guess I would be a little grumpy too, and a little aggressive probably. So I said, well, let's try it and see what happens. So she came to my house, she went out in the backyard, and she wouldn't come near me. She was terrified. And I had to bring in a friend of mine who is a trainer that works with some of the power breeds. Plus, it took all day and we were able to get a lead on her. So now I had the ability to walk up to her and be in the same room without her running off. And of course, I started, offering Reiki to her, and she lived in that environment. She loved the other little dogs. I mean, she was like a grandma to them. She looked after them. She got to where she would patrol the yard, and she'd just watch for any activity, and she would alert if something was going on. And she was just the sweetest dog. I mean, she went from this scary, aggressive appearing dog when really she was fearful to the most loving dog. I mean, I could take her anywhere, and the rescue group was shocked because they were having some event, and I thought, I'm going to take her. And we went to the pet store, and their mouths just fell open because I walked in with her, and they're like, and the woman told me, she said, Jamie, I only got her out of there because I thought she was going to die. I figured she had about 2 weeks left to live, and I just wanted her to be in a home. And she lived with me for 4 years. And she was to the point where if somebody came to my front door, she was there barking, and you weren't going to come in unless you petted her because she wanted attention. I mean, she just totally transformed.
That's amazing from being aggressive to people to, but she probably got a lot of care too from you where the pain was less.
Yes, the pain was less. We did a lot of things for that. Of course, she got the Reiki energy. She had really good food, and she had a job to do here, and she had a pack. I mean, she belonged here, and that's so important, right? We all need that. And it was just to see her just after what she had been through. But she didn't keep reliving that in her head. I mean, at first, yes, she was terrified. But then once she dropped the wall, and I saw the day when she dropped her wall, and it's when I was working with my trainer friend, and we would just walk up to her, she would go, we'd walk again, and then finally she sat down and she just went, and the wall was down. And it's like, okay, I guess I'm just going to trust you. And once she dropped her walls and decided, okay, I'll trust you and let's see what happens, everything just transformed for her and for me. So many lessons, she taught me how to let go of that anger, not to hang on to that. In her passing, we had a beautiful spiritual moment together where we really connected and we just transcended this physical world. And I know she's still with me. There was no tears because it was just such a beautiful experience. It was just one lesson after another from her. And
the power of just being loved and feeling seen and being safe, and how that really makes an animal blossom. But what a wonderful lesson, right?
Oh, yeah. And, that's what we learn with Animal Reiki, right? To respect them, to see them, to love them, and be compassionate.
But then for her to show you how she didn't, you can love and not sit there and be resentful or sad or depressed about your past. It's like, I love that about animals. They just show us how they can let go so easily and how love can really help them blossom, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So my
absolutely.
story is about a horse.
And I
And
want to welcome Joan before
oh
we.
yeah, Joan. Hello, Joan. That was rude. I'm just gonna just talk, not even acknowledge. We're
I don't
happy to
know if
see
you
Joan
saw
here
her.
today. No, I didn't. I just was in my own little reverie.
Okay.
But I was on the board and I taught classes. Hey, Joan, good to see you. I was on the board and taught classes at Pregnant Mare Rescue, which is outside of Santa Cruz in Aptos, California. And there was a horse. It was actually Lynn, the owner's very first horse, Rose, and she wasn't she was kind of like a halfling. She was smaller than a regular horse, but she had come from Mexico and she was pregnant and she was taken off a feedlot. And in Mexico, sometimes they correct horses by banging them on the head with a board. So her ears went out to the side, because when horses have brain injuries, their ears will go out and they won't go up and back. They go to the side and they can't really go forward very well. So Rose had her baby and she was at Pregnant Mare, and her job became being mother to the babies that were taken from the feedlot, because a lot of times the mothers were killed and there would be babies on the feedlot. So she would always be the one that would sit with the babies and be in the stall with the babies and help them feel better until they got to a point where they were comfortable and they could be out with the other horses. And so Rose was so sweet. She was just such a gentle, loving horse. But because of her brain injury, she could only walk like at a really slow pace. And she didn't really connect deeply with you, like as far as like looking at you. Like a lot of horses will look at you, and she just never really got eye contact. Now, well, I will say this, with my ex-husband, I have pictures of her many different times where she would do eye contact with him, which I think is really interesting. It's almost like she knew when someone was damaged or had pain, and she would connect deeply with that. So I was teaching a class, and when I got there, Lynn said, oh, Rose is getting ready to go to this other place to stay with these two donkeys. And I could tell Rose was off. Like she probably was very depressed. I mean, animals know when something's going to be happening. I'm sure she knew, she's leaving Pregnant Mare Rescue. And so I asked the students, it was a level 1 class, and it's all about just holding space, right? And doing the precepts. So I asked them to please tell Rose before their sessions, their meditation sessions, that they loved her, they saw her, she was important, that they appreciated all that she had done for all these babies, right? And so we all did different sessions with Rose, and there were other horses. There were these 3 palominos, and they had blonde manes, and they were like golden brown, and we called them the mean girls, because they were just these California blondes with the 3 blondes, and they were so sassy and mean. And when Rose would try to eat, they'd chase her off. And I was saying to Lynn, oh my gosh, that's so mean. She goes, oh, look at Rose, she's overweight. She gets in there, and she was, and Rose just comes around, does the peripheral, and just gets all the scraps that the girls are throwing around as they're tossing themselves. And side note about the 3 blondes, which was so cute, during the Reiki class, there was like a big patch of sun, and they went and they laid down, the 3 of them, just side by side, but they were just mean girls, those girls. So by the end of class, Rose has had many sessions with all of us. And because of Rose's brain injury, she just walked at a really slow plod. She never ran or even just trotted. She never did that. But after class, we were all getting ready to leave, and we saw her playing with another horse and actually running. And I have a picture of her running, and she never did it after that. And thankfully, she didn't have to go with the donkeys. They changed their mind at the last minute. So it was really nice that she got to stay. And who knows if Reiki helped that, right? Who knows if Reiki healed that situation. But it was so beautiful. And it just makes me so emotional to see Rose just blossom under the energy of pure love and appreciation for who she was, because I don't think she got acknowledged that much. Like everybody knew Rose takes care of the babies, but as far as like having a deep appreciation for her and what she's doing, and to tell her, to show her that we all loved her so much and cared about her, I think that it just really shifted something deep inside of her. And so I'll never forget how love, just that energy of love, transformed her from being really sad in the morning to just running in the afternoon. Nobody could believe it. We were all just like, oh my gosh, Rose. But it was just such a huge transformation. Another funny story about, I'll just tell you really quickly about one time I was teaching a class and there was another horrible horse. They'd get these horses. A lot of them were ex-race horses. And this one, she had actually won. So a lot of them, they were on the feedlot because they hadn't won. Well, this horse had won. She'd won like a $500,000. So that was pretty good. Her name was Las Vegas Dancer, and she was pregnant and she was taken off a feedlot. And we were doing Reiki and she just wanted nothing to do with it. And we were all standing in front of the fence. There was like 10 of us. And then there was like 10 of the horses standing there, up to the fence, all like kind of in front of somebody. And she's over here, like, I don't want to. And we started going into the meditation and she's like, she lifts her head and she's like, oh. So she starts pushing each horse out of the way and stands in front of each person and goes all the way down the line, get out of my way. And then they're all just like, okay, because she's a big thoroughbred, right? And she's pregnant and she's sassy. So all the way down the line, it was just incredible, because that's the power of Reiki, right? That's the power of what we do, that we can make these transformations. So yeah, I have so many stories from Pregnant Mare, but that was Las Vegas Dancer, and the one with Rose, obviously, is a good reflection of love. So,
that sounds like a Las Vegas girl.
Yes. Her name was Las Vegas Dancer, and she was just so spicy. Oh my gosh, that was the funniest thing though. She's just pushing him out. Like she'd get her head and knock him. I'm going to be in front of this person. Then she goes to the next person, and then the next person. Like, she's like, I'm not going to stand in front of one person.
They're all mine.
It was, but that's also what our practice does, right? It creates these really kind of miraculous kind of experiences that stay with you forever. I mean, that was when I very first started teaching. So that was probably 2009.
Yeah.
That happened.
And I'm always amazed when it happens, even though we talk about it. It's like Reiki can transform. You have all these experiences. Animals will respond. And still, when it happens, I'm just gobsmacked. It's like,
I know.
It's like, wow, it really does work. Because it's such a passive thing. Yeah, and animals just respond to it.
They really do. I don't know, Joan and Darlene, if you have a story you want to share about an experience. Yeah, with love and an animal. Oh, you're trying to unmute, Darlene? Oh,
yeah.
Oh, he just doesn't want to unmute. What's going on?
Can she?
For some reason, can we unmute her? Maybe?
Oh, I can ask her to unmute, but that's it.
Yeah.
Hey there. There we go.
Oh.
You got it.
Oh, wait. Okay. Oh, I just muted her. Oh my God.
You're
okay. 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 Oh, I unmuted Joan. Oh, look at, oh my good grief. Thanks, Joan. All right. Back on track.
Comedy of errors. Yeah, just some funny stories that I had with my bearded dragon Spencer. Just he was kind of the special needs guy before he passed away in December. But I noticed that once I had actually finished the first animal Reiki class with you, Leah, and just being able to work with him better, it's like I saw this transformation with him, that he was getting around a little bit better, he was a little more active, and just being his silly goofy self, and And then I don't know what happened. It's like he had a seizure right there at the end, but I think that was his time, unfortunately. But he was a special guy, but just saw him totally transform into, what he was supposed to be, there, right at the end. So I think that was just kind of like a blessing for him and for me too. It just, really helped me, when I did lose him, that I knew that he was in a better place and that he wasn't in any kind of pain anymore. So
We just had a conversation, Jamie and I, with a vet that we're friends with. And when I had done a class and trained the vet and her partner in Animal Reiki, and when we were out at Keepers of the Wild in Arizona, it's a wild life. I don't know if it's a sanctuary, it's open to the public,
Yeah,
kind of a sanctuary.
guess
Some
it's
of the
kind of
animals are rescued. Some of the tigers are declawed, and one of the tigers, Bowie, was declawed, and he was always in pain, and he had actually attacked the owner, and so he was just always very tense and tight. But when we did our class, he actually relaxed so much. One of the staff there said they'd never seen him without a furrowed brow, that he always had his brow furrowed and it was relaxed and his tongue was out. They do this when they get really relaxed. And he ended up, it was a beautiful session. We did a couple sessions with him, or 2 or 3, and he ended up dying a couple months later. But we were talking about that earlier today, how, sometimes it's like a time for them to let go. They finally have felt what they have been here for, right? To feel that pure love and that acceptance. And you hear a lot about that in rescue. Like sometimes you'll get a horse or any kind of animal out of a really bad situation, and then they're happy and then they die, sometimes even just a couple days later. But I really think it's because they could finally just release, like they feel loved, they feel accepted, they're looking for that. And like, we have to remember that animals live in that moment, right? They're not thinking about yesterday, they're thinking about that exact moment, and that moment stays with them. So I love that. Thank you, Darlene, so much. Because that's what I feel when I hear that story of Spencer, that he was, he felt that deep love and appreciation where he could just blossom under it. And then he said, okay, got what I came here for.
Exactly.
Joan, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Not anything, groundbreaking, but these hens that I'm working with on a weekly basis up at Charlie's Acres.
So these are the hens without the beaks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really seem to be kind of falling into a pattern. Like I'm not just somebody who comes in and like disrupts when I come in. I think they expect that I'm going to just plop my chair, and just sit with them and, enjoy the space, and they carry on, their little activities, and, they're the dominant ones, and I don't know if the light is not shining right on them, but,
so sweet.
they have their little feeding areas, and there are the ones who push the other ones away, and this and that, and it's and I do my best to just keep my eyes closed, but I'll tell you, it's hard when there are 23 of them, and you're every once in a while, I want to open my eyes, but I don't. I just want to just chill and be and meditate. But it's something else. It really, really is. They have adapted to this environment. And I think at first I felt like they were so used to either being chased around or treated, wrong. And now I think because they now have their own pattern and their own like comfort areas and their feeding areas. And then they have these, bowls of food, and, one goes in there and just, starts eating. And then another one comes along and goes, okay, you're done. And they chase them out. And so it's like this routine that they're in, and they're letting me be part of that. So I feel like they've accepted me as a sort of a calming presence who comes in and just, I don't have an agenda. I'm not anything but a presence that comes in and just brings hopefully some calm and some peace. And then this group, with the turkey ombre, I don't know if you can see it, but
Oh, now I can. Yeah.
you know, he's a character. And I just, again, I go in and I just, a lot of times I don't go in with some of the turkeys who tend to be,
Yeah.
they're a little
Oh, yeah,
rough.
they're a little aggressive.
As much as I want to, like, I really want to, but I have to remember, I'm not like Superman. I'm not putting a cape on, like, whoosh, here I am, here to save you. I prefer to sit outside their paddock and just be, just be. And if they come up to the fence, they, that's great. If they want to have an interaction after I finish my meditation, that's great. So, it's, I just get, it just fills me up when I drive home from there. I just feel so, and it's not about me.
No,
I'm happy that I can
that love is
share.
being mirrored back to you, right? Like, so you are
Yes.
this light, you come without expectation, and they mirror that back, and they accept you. And I know that Jamie, you and I, we work with horses. So the horses, they really will make you part of the pack. I mean, I've been moved by horses. Like, the lead horse will put her ears back, like get back, back, back. And her ears stay back until I start getting where, and then they'll go forward, So it's that acceptance of you as part of their pack. Even though you're different, you are part of that. And yeah, it's no wonder your heart feels full.
Yeah, I would love to go do horse Animal Reiki with you at some point if you ever need or want somebody to go with me.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I'd love to learn how to do that, because there are 3 horses at Charlie's Acres that are
we could talk
like at the other end. I mean, the people who work there obviously know
Joan, if you're outside the paddock, it's the same thing as with the hens. You just sit, you just hold space. And then once they get used to you and once you feel comfortable, then you can just go stand in the paddock, by the fence. As long as they're not aggressive in any way, you always, you can go in with them, but it's the same approach, just being that light. And horses are really good. Sometimes they'll come and they'll put their head in your chest, and you can just like gently put your hands on each side of their head if you want. But yeah, we can talk about the different ways that you could do that too. Yeah. And in fact, next week we're doing Q&A. So that would be a great time to go in on how to be with horses. Because it's not that much different at all. There's just some little safety precautions, and horses are amazing, aren't they, Jamie?
They really are. I'm lucky that there's several out at Wendy's, which is where I take my classes and where I volunteer at. I'm on the board there, and they have a donkey, and you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, one time I walked in there and they had a new one who was kind of, jockeying for position in the herd and kind of a little troublemaker. And so I'm standing there because I'm used to being able to go in with the horses. They're used to me. And this one started to come up. And one of the other females, she came and stood right in front of me. And it's like, nope, you don't get her, and pushed that other horse away, protecting me. And then, but you never know. One time I was standing there and I was outside of the stalls, and the horses were in the stalls, and they were like, okay. And the next thing I know, I got a turkey laying right in front of my feet. He just came over, laid down. It's like, oh, okay, I guess you're into it today too. So, but it's always just amazing to see how they respond. I've had a horse try to sit on a fence to get closer to me. I'm just like, really? Okay.
Yeah, no, they're amazing animals, but we are going a little late. So let's go to our next point is they help us to let go of anger. So animals show us how we can go from angry to really happy, blissful, joyful in really just seconds like this. And I know, Jamie, you have a story about your little girl, Sophie.
Yes, this little one right here. So she came a little over a year ago on National Pet Day. and I found her on a 6-foot block wall. Could not find her owner, couldn't find anybody even interested in taking her. So I really thought she was supposed to come here. And at first it was good. I mean, my other two have always lived in a pack. They've never been, without another dog. And then Bella, my little girl who's 11, and she's part Jack Russell. I'm just going to put it out there so you know how they can be. And she just decided that she didn't like her. And I mean, she would attack her, and it got really bad for no reason, out of the blue. And she would hunt her down, and she'd wait for her to get in, like playing with the toy, and she'd be behind something. And so she'd wait for that. Whenever she got an opportunity like that, she took it. I was getting very angry. And because I was like, Bella, what are you doing this for? And because I love Bella, but I didn't love her behavior, and I was angry and frustrated. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid I was going to have to make a bad decision, maybe get rid of Sophie. And yet every time, Bella would come after her, so I'd grab her and then just put her in her kennel and give her a timeout. And Sophie just she shook it off, like dogs do. It's like, oh, okay. And then she was running around, and she still tries to get Bella to play with her. And we're doing better now. And there's some other things I've done. I've called it a behaviorist. I'm using CBD. So I'm doing other things besides just the Reiki. But every morning, they all get up on the couch with me. And, I do my meditation, include them in it. Everybody's peaceful. You never know how long that's going to last. But hey, I take it. And so does Sophie. She just kind of lets it all go. It's not like she hangs on to it. And it's a great lesson for me because, I'm like most people, how we can just relive when someone wrongs us. And I've had some things at work where I can just go back there and, oh yeah, that was horrible. And this person did that. And it's like, why relive all that negativity? Because it doesn't do me any good. And so Sophie just kind of reminds me of that, and she's still cautious. She knows to be cautious sometimes around her, but she doesn't let that fear and that anger grip her. She just shakes it off and wants to play. So, and I think animals are.
I was trying to comment, and then I was like on mute. I know, I love that because, that is so true. It's like they show us, they reflect that it's not that big of a deal. Like we take everything so, oh my gosh, you just did this to me.
Right.
And really that's not, it's an attachment to the outcome that we want. We want people to feel bad or like whatever we want. It's this, now we want control of how people feel or, oh, you did this to me. We all know people that do that too. They pout or and it's just at the end of the day, there's really nothing but joy and love. And that's what animals show us, no matter what happens to you, you can always find joy and peace.
And we're not in the present moment when we're, reliving that stuff and getting worked up. Like Sophie's in the present moment. So when she wakes up, she wants to play, she's happy, she's in this present moment. She's not thinking about, oh, Bella attacked me last night right after dinner, and I'm going to hang on to that and be grumpy.
Yeah, I think it's too. Also, Bella is safe. She's at home. I think if a dog was in a shelter and that happened, it might be a little different because then they're not themselves, right? But when we're talking about animals that are happy, healthy, they show us that you don't have to sweat the little stuff.
Yeah.
You don't even have to sweat the big stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to sweat anything. Just be, right? Like the chickens, they had half their beaks taken off. And they're just eating and socializing. And, God, can you imagine if half our nose was gone or half our lips were gone, like something, we would just be devastated, right? Because there's so much attachment, how we look, how people treat us. And, that's just, so and I know I'll try to make this fast. So my little story is actually something that happened to me and how my practice really gave me the foundation for, getting through a really dark, difficult time. So I was married for 20 years. And at the end of my marriage, it was June of 2014, my husband had something happen at work. He was an executive director at this very high-end retirement home. He was in charge of he was a chef, so he's in charge of the restaurant services or whatever, food services. And he ended up getting fired, but not from his fault, but I guess he'd been microdosing meth because he's working like 14-hour days. And I didn't know that. So then when he got fired, he started doing meth. And I didn't know which I always thought was kind of weird. Of course you're going to know if your husband's doing drugs, but I didn't. He didn't fit any of the, didn't pick his face. His teeth weren't brown. He was a big guy. He never lost weight. He went to sleep on time. But what happened was he takes off with this meth addict, and I wake up to just the whole bottom of the world falling out from underneath me. And thankfully, though, this was in 2014. I had been practicing for 7 years at that point. And what happened was, yes, I was devastated, but I had my dogs with me and I got support from them. And I called Kathleen and I got support from her. And I reached out to all my Reiki friends and I got support for them. And so for the first day, an hour and a half, I was just, but then I was able to get on top of it. And then throughout the day, if I felt myself sinking, I would just go to the precepts. And when I first learned Reiki, I leaned hard in the precepts because I kind of have ADD, or my brain goes, brrr. So it's very hard for me to sit and meditate. So I had to do the mantras and the chanting, that we learn in level 2. I did that a lot. So quiet meditation wasn't really my forte, but the precepts were. So by the time this happened, I have a huge foundation of strength from the precepts, and I was able to literally get through that time just reciting the precepts throughout the day, every day. Because he's on meth and he's crazy. So I would get these crazy texts, and my friends were all afraid he's going to come and kill me. I was never afraid of that, but they were. So there's all this fear going on. And I was just, what? I just got to stay in this space of the precepts. And my animals, my dogs were always there for me because they could feel I was off. So it was they would really spoon me, which was horrible when I was in bed, because I've got these 2 big dogs. One's 50, one's 60. And I'm just okay, you guys are so hot. But, they could feel she needs this, right? Because animals are really in tune to us when we are going through difficult times. And I'm happy to say that from June to October, all this crap happened, but I was able to stay on top of it. I was able to not be angry, because had I not had this, because I would constantly think, God, what if I didn't have this practice? What if I didn't have this support? I would be so angry at him doing this to me, after 20 years of marriage, that he did this, that he took off with this woman. And side note, he was taking her to all these, before I realized he was spending our money, he was taking her to all these nice hotels along the California coast that he would never take me to. They were really expensive. So I had to pull the plug. And I was with the dogs and I was laughing. I'll never forget. I'm looking at our bank account. I'm getting sick, but Bruce, we had as a couple, and Titus was newer to our family. So Bruce, I'm talking to Bruce. Bruce, can you believe this shit? He's taking her to places he wouldn't even take your mom. And so, I could find comedy, I could find relief, but I wouldn't have been able to do it had it not been for the power of the precepts and that foundation that I had deep within me. So, I always in my classes say, if you do nothing else, do the precepts. And that was even before I would say that, just because of how my mind works. I would tell my students always, ever since I learned Reiki and started teaching, do the precepts. If you do nothing else, do the precepts, because it's the foundation, it's the cornerstone to your practice. And in these dark times, because we're all going to have them, that will hold you, that will keep you above water. That's what's going to be your safety raft, right? That you can go into that space. And I was able to watch comedy. I was able to let things go, because for today only, right? For today only. And when I look back at that time, there's nothing I would do different. I was able to listen to my own wisdom, because, when you're in high beta, it's scientifically proven, you can't think straight. You can't concentrate. You can't find answers. And I was always in a low beta, even like a theta state, because of my practice. So I was able to make really sound decisions when everybody else was freaking out around me. You know, oh my God, you have to do this, you have to do that, blah, blah, blah. But I had to do it the way I had to do it. And I ended up getting him and his girlfriend in rehab. And by October, it was all over. And on the other side of it, I got laid off from my work because of him, but I got a huge severance package. And so a year later, I was in Portland. I had met somebody new. My whole life looked different. And it was all because I had this practice. And that's why I always tell people, like, you know, lean into your precepts because they seem really passive, right, Jamie?
Yeah, they do. They really seem passive. And I think that's what amazes us. And I think it's, you know, I've heard you tell that story, and it's like what you were able to do because of the precepts. You didn't hang on to anger. You were able to actually help your ex-husband and his girlfriend get the help they needed, so maybe they wouldn't die from a drug overdose. And how many women in your position would have done that? I mean, you know, there was a time in my life where I would have said, yeah, go ahead, take some more and just kill yourself, you know.
That's not to say I didn't wish he would die on the freeway. As he was like, I don't know how he did it. He's on meth. He's Facebooking. He's driving down the 101. I'm just like, good God. I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy time. But yeah, you're right. I mean, because it gives you that presence of mind that you can be strong. You can be that just pillar of strength, that mountain, as Kathleen likes to say, you know, be the mountain. And you can be that mountain and not have anything rock you, you know? And he tried.
It's like you go to a place where you're up here, you know, and the problem is down here, and you're just kind of looking down on it, where you can be much more objective.
That's exactly.
Yeah. And you just watch it unfold, but you're not attached to the outcome, and you're not in pain. You're not suffering because of it. And
I just think if we
practice.
We just think we could give that to like children, you know, like when they're so when their parents get divorced or go through things, they have this that they could like lean into. I mean, this should be taught everywhere. So I know we're kind of going over time here because it's already 4:56. So I want to get to the last one. And they help transform us by teaching us meditation and mindfulness. So you have a really cool story of a dog at a shelter.
Yeah. So there was, we had a shelter, and one of the dogs that was there was named Elvis. Of course, he was named Elvis. You know, I'm in Las Vegas, and he had been there a year, and he was a sweet pitty, but he started to self-mutilate. He was licking. And the manager, somehow she found out about me and asked if I would, you know, send Reiki to him. So I did it distantly, and I sent Reiki for 3 or 4 times. And then she contacted me and she said, you know, he's not licking his paw anymore. Do you think it has anything to do with the Reiki? And I'm like, well, I think there's a good chance that it could, you know, I think so. And to show that, you know, we talk about how Reiki heals a situation. So yes, Elvis needed, he needed to be supported emotionally and physically so he would stop self-mutilating. But that whole situation needed to be healed. And I didn't know that. I had no attachment. I was just sending Reiki to him. And he did pretty good for a month or so. And then he started to self-mutilate again. So she got a hold of me. I said, okay, you know, I'll be happy to send him more. So I sent him 4 more sessions. And then I didn't hear from her for quite a while. And then she got a hold of me and she said, I just have to tell you, Elvis got adopted today, and his mom is a Reiki practitioner, a Reiki master, she said. And she sent me a picture, and she did human Reiki, but Elvis didn't care. So there was a picture of him on a massage table, and every day he would get up on the table and she would give him Reiki. And so I mean, it was the perfect home for him, you know, and it healed that situation for him. So I just thought that was so beautiful.
I love that so much.
The perfect mom. He got to continue his Reiki, and he stopped self-mutilating, and he got out of that shelter.
I think that's so amazing too, because it really highlights how, I think a lot of times with distant Reiki, we have a hard time. Like, is it really working? Are they responding the way we think they should? But really, the reality is the minute we think of those animals, they feel that. And like for him, he, all those pitties are so loving, So for him, he was probably just soaking it up. And yeah, it's funny. She was doing human Reiki on him, right? She wasn't doing, but that energy, right? That feeling good, that is what he was responding to. I love that. So my story is about it, kind of on the heels of that, and how it's really important for us that when we're thinking of animals, that we always think of them with love and positivity, because they literally feel it. So when Kathleen and I went to care for the first time, it was 2011, and I had been practicing for 4 years at that point, right? And teaching. And of course, you teach distant Reiki and you think, oh yeah, this works. But really there's part of you that's like,
Does it?
really does. Yeah. We all have those doubts. It's true. But so when we got there, it was huge classes, and there was a black leopard, Makoto, who all of you know and have heard of. And so Makoto, just for one session with Kathleen, bonded really deeply. And then 2 months later, when we came home, we found out she had cancer. And so when we were there, I had an experience with these 2 tigers, but we had only spent maximum, I'm like her with Makoto, probably only like 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. And with the 2 tigers and with Bolshoi, he was like the patriarch tiger, maybe like 45 minutes total. And so when we came home, we both had such incredible experiences meditating with these big cats that we were like, okay, you know what? You have cancer. We're just going to start meditating. We're going to do Reiki, and we're going to bring these cats in, right? So she worked with Makoto and Bolshoi, and I worked with Tigger and Pumpkin. And it was really incredible. And I would, in my meditations be like, oh, I would see myself with them out in the wild. I would see myself swimming with them, whatever it was, just us being free. And so when Kathleen went into surgery, I think you've all heard this, she had Makoto on one side and Bolshoi on the other, and she went into that surgery feeling really strong. Side note that's really funny, when she came out of surgery, her husband was there and she said, "Where's Leah?" So that's just a funny side note. Anyway, because I was at the hospital too. But anyway, so when we went back the next year, Kathleen was recovering from her breast surgery still. It was a few months later, but she had spacers in and she was still weak. And we get there and we're parked, and we decide to go to Makoto first. So we're putting on mosquito spray, and we walk up, and when we saw him before, he was just very like regal. He'd have his back to you. He wouldn't look at you, wouldn't engage. But when we got there, he started to sniff the air, and she said, "Oh, I think he smells my mosquito spray." And I go, "I don't think so." And he starts rubbing his cheek on the fence, and then goes in a back thing and just is rolling and so happy. And he's rubbing, and he sits up and he's looking at her, and you could feel that deep connection. And it was like, oh my God, this whole time he's feeling that. The whole time he's experiencing that same thing, right? So we go over to the tigers, same thing. The tigers, they do this thing, they chuff when they see a friend. They don't chuff when they see just, and we did the class, because this was a day, we always go a day early for private, and nobody was on property but us. But when the students come, they don't do that. They don't chuff. So they see us, they hear us, they start chuffing, and we're thinking, well, they probably think it's like the volunteers or something. And we get up there and it's the same thing. They're rubbing against the fences. They're jumping up. They're just like so happy to see us. And then Kathleen goes and has an experience with Bolshoi. But it was that at that moment, I was like, oh my God, every time I'm connecting, they're feeling it. Every time I'm meditating, they're experiencing it. It's not me making it up. And it was such an intense lesson. And I'm so grateful for that, because we are so deaf when it comes to energy. We're so, numb. We don't feel it like they do, but they are so hypersensitive to energy. And we are all, quantum physics, proves that we're all connected. So they're up here in this, energetic web that we're trying to get up to, right? But in those spaces of meditation, we actually join them. And it was really an amazing experience.
That sounds beautiful. I mean, it really does. And it just demonstrates how they do connect with us and how willing they are to help us in this, whole process, which, and you can see why maybe they wouldn't be, especially, tigers and different animals that maybe have been used in ways like entertainment or abused. But again, they recognize when someone is, doing that pure light, when you're becoming that pure light, they recognize that right away and they see us.
Absolutely. They see us for who we really are. So Makoto had lived in a very small cage he could barely turn around in, that we found out years later. And then Pumpkin and Tigger came there almost starved to death. So they didn't trust people. They didn't open up to people. So for us to go back a year later without only spending just less than an hour with each of them, Bolshoi was different. He was raised from a cub, so he was much more friendly. But the other three, they were very closed off to people. And it was just amazing. But I know that, like Sally, I know we're going into meditation time here, but Sally earlier this morning shared how she's a dog trainer and she was going to see a dog and she decided, you know what, I'm going to ask the dog to help me help the parents. And this was a very fearful dog. And when she got there and started talking to the parents, he kind of came up and she was like, I'm not going to touch him. He doesn't know me. And he came up and he just turned around and sat on her foot. And then the people wrote to her after the session and were just like exuberant about it. And she said, people are always nice and positive, but she said they were just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So it's, when we look to these animals as, can you help me? Can you, support me? That empowers them. But just also, we have to remember when we think of them. That's why when you see people on Facebook going blah, 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 negative, you really have to say, hey, let's not be negative, because the animal feels that. Oh no, I know we can. Jamie, you want to do a really quick, because
yes, let's do a 1-minute meditation, because
let's do it. We've got class and we've got a hard stop.
Yes. So let's just sit straight with our spine straight, or comfortable. Sit comfortable, but have your spine straight. Put your hands in Gasso and set your intention for what you would like to receive and give from this meditation. You can invite your animals in at this time. And just slowly take a deep breath in through your nose and pull that breath all the way down to your belly. Just pull that down and really fill your belly. And then on the exhale, just release any stress or tension that you may be storing in your body. Take another deep breath in, pull it all the way down to the belly. And then exhale and release. And notice where there's any tension in your body. Take another breath in, all the way down to the belly. And then release whatever's not serving you. Take another breath in. And release. Just feel your body relax. Continue to breathe like that. Feel your body relax. Feel any connection with an animal that may have joined you. Feel the tension and stress leave your body. I just feel a sense of peace come over you. And your heart opens up to joy. And you share all these feelings with your animal. Just hold that space for just a moment. Relax. Feel the peace. Feel your connection to the animal. And now, thank your animal, whoever joined you, for participating in this meditation with you. Bring your awareness back to your body, your breath, where you're sitting. Take another deep breath in, deep cleansing breath. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank
You're
you, Joan
welcome.
and Darlene, for
Yes.
coming. I have to scoot because I've got a 5 o'clock class. But next week, Joan and Darlene, we're doing open Q&A. So come with your questions. And Joan, we can talk about horses
Yes.
and about what to do, because that's really exciting. But if, in the meantime, if you go, just stand outside that fence.
Yep.
Just be that light. Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good
You
night.
too.
Bye.